3. Hello and welcome to Access HE Higher and Degree Apprenticeships Live. My name is Beth, I'm from Access HE and I'm chairing this session this evening. In the next hour, we'll be learning what exactly a higher or degree apprenticeship is, where you can find them, and how to support your child to pursue, apply and secure one. To help us find the answer to these tricky questions is Bradley Davis from Amazing Apprenticeships and Tom Cully, a network degree apprentice with BT. Welcome to you both. Hi, thanks for joining. Bradley and Tom will speak and then we'll have a few minutes to answer any questions you might have. As you can see, there is a chat function with the live event, so please do make use of this throughout. We want to hear your opinions, concerns, and questions about higher and degree apprenticeships. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce the amazing Bradley Davis from Amazing Apprenticeships. Hey, Bradley, good evening, take it away.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all safe and well in these difficult times, and I hope your children are safe and well as well. Please do bear with me a moment while I share my screen. It won't take a second. And here we go. Okay, so hopefully you should now be able to see the PowerPoint, and we shall soon begin. Okay, so as I say, good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come and speak with me today. My name is Bradley. I work for an organisation called ASK, the Apprenticeship Support and Knowledge Programme, which is under the umbrella of Amazing Apprenticeships. And my job is to tour the schools of London and promote the awareness and uptake of apprenticeships among young people by speaking to students, teachers, and indeed parents, which is what leads me here today to speak with yourselves. So in today's session, we're going to be looking at the different kinds of apprenticeships that are available, what higher and degree apprenticeships are, the different levels available, and how you might go about finding an apprenticeship to apply for. Okay, so without further ado, let's carry on. So first of all, the very basics then, the rudimentary stuff. What exactly is an apprenticeship? Well, an apprenticeship is an on-the-job training program that mixes work with study, for which the apprentice gets paid, and at the end of the program, the apprentice leaves with a qualification that entitles him or her to work in his or her chosen field. All right. So every single apprentice will earn a wage, not to be confused with the internships, which are unpaid. The national minimum wage for an apprentice is £3.90 an hour. But I would stress that really is only the minimum wage. Most apprenticeship programs pay more than that. And indeed, the average starting salary for a degree level apprentice in 2019 was £17,800. All right. And many programs pay even more than that, into the higher teens, into the 20s, and some of them even into the 30s, £1,000 a year. All right. So a great wage to be on at age 18, fresh out of sixth form. Every apprentice will have to work for at least 30 hours a week. That's about 80% of the time spent at work learning from the experts, and 20% studying at the college or university, depending on the level. And if it's a degree, it'll be at university. The range of qualifications you can get range from GCSE and A levels, again, all the way up to degrees and even full master's degrees through the apprenticeship route. It is not a soft option. It is difficult balancing work and study. Your child will have to abide by lots of professional standards and expectations, but with all those responsibilities also come rights. They will have access to sick pay, holiday pay. They can't be summarily dismissed for no reason, and of the same kind of redundancy protections that any other normal adult worker would have. All right, so that's an apprenticeship for you in a nutshell. On to some myth busting then next. As I said, every apprentice earns a wage. I won't belabor that point further. One anxiety that people have with apprenticeships is they think an apprentice earns usually less than a qualified employee. So they think surely the apprentice will get taken on, used as cheap labour, dropped at the end of the programme, be left with no job, only to be replaced by a new apprentice as a conveyor belt of cheap labour, and the process repeats itself. That's an anxiety that people have, but actually the data does not bear that out at all. 90% of people who successfully complete their apprenticeship stay in work with the company with which they did it, and many of the 10% that don't move on to seek more attractive options elsewhere. The employability rates post-apprenticeship are really, really good. You can now gain a degree through an apprenticeship, including a master's. If your young person goes down that route, they won't pay a single penny in tuition fees because the government and the company will pay it for them. All right. So instead of paying £9,000 a year to get their degree, instead they get paid to get their degree. Yeah. So rather than accumulating debt, they get paid instead. Many young people are cautious about degree apprenticeships because they want to relocate. They want to move away from home for the first time in their lives, right? Which I understand. And it is true that most apprentices do stay at home whilst they do their apprenticeship because it's cheaper. But actually, many do relocate. It's quite possible to relocate. They're earning a wage, they can make rent, and some companies will subsidize that relocation. All right, I'm not saying they all will, but some of them do. In terms of the social life, again, young people always ask, am I going to be able to enjoy my youth if I've got this work and this study components, mixed together? To which I always say they probably would have less free time in a normal working week than a university or sixth form student. However, it does negate the need for a Saturday and after school job because they're doing their work and getting paid for it already. Okay, so that Saturday and after school time does free up. And because they're earning that wage, they can enjoy the free time they do have properly and comprehensively because they can afford to. Onto the range of apprenticeships now. I'm sure many of you know that apprenticeships used to be largely vocational. So hairdressing, mechanics, plumbing, construction, that kind of thing. Those opportunities still exist and are still really important for thousands of young people every single year. But the range of apprenticeships has increased a great deal. You can get into teaching, accountancy, surveying, horticulture, architecture, legal services, journalism, nursing, and many, many more besides. All right. Every single sector will now have an apprenticeship route available to it. I'm not saying every single job within the sector. So, for example, if your child is interested in medicine, they could become a nurse or gain a supporting role in the field of medicine through an apprenticeship, but they could not yet become a doctor. So every single sector, if not every single job within that sector. Here are some of the employers that are currently offering apprenticeship programs. About half of the apprenticeship programs you come across will be with small companies you've probably never heard of. And in some ways, they offer quite attractive programs. Because if there's only 7 people in the team and your child is one of them, then a lot of that company's success depends on that person doing really well. So they invest a lot of time and effort into making sure they flourish. But these larger companies have very well vetted and very well respected, very prestigious apprenticeship programs too. Young people who are interested in the humanities like English, history, politics, very often go into the civil service. And you see the Cabinet Office on there, but all branches of the civil service will run apprenticeship programs. If they're interested in public service, the Royal Air Force and all branches of the military offer apprenticeship programs, as does the Metropolitan Police. If they're artistic, companies like ITV, BBC and Sky will offer apprenticeship programs. If they're interested in finance or banking, any of the big banks, Santander, RBS, take your pick. If they're interested in engineering, Network Rail has 120 apprenticeships for engineering in London every single year. And of course, if they're interested in computer programming, that kind of thing, Google and all the big IT companies will offer programs. So there's lots of opportunities out there for people to get involved in and to research and to find and to apply for. One final note about the company. Don't be too prejudiced based on what the company is mostly known for. All right, all these big multinationals have lots of different departments they need to help them run effectively. So they all have logistics departments, sales departments, marketing departments, legal departments, and so on. So you may find your young person doing an apprenticeship in a field they're interested in, like cybersecurity or sales or marketing, in a company you wouldn't necessarily expect. So you may have seen Pret or Starbucks on the last slide, and you might think, well, is that going to be an apprenticeship in making a fancy sandwich or making a posh cup of coffee? The answer is no. They could do security or customer service or cybersecurity apprenticeship even at a company like that isn't known primarily for that kind of thing. So do keep an open mind. So some remarks then about the different levels of apprenticeships, because when you're doing your research, to find an apprenticeship program, it can be quite confusing. So I will just explain them all so you'll know which one your child should and shouldn't be applying for. All right. So the first level we come across is the intermediate apprenticeship, level 2. They are the equivalent of GCSEs, and they can be started at age 16 after GCSEs finish. These are usually for young people who may struggle with literacy and numeracy, and the course entails some support in that respect. Level 3s are the equivalent of A levels, and again can be started at age 16 after GCSEs are finished. And then after level 3s, we have higher and degree level apprenticeships. Now these can be started at age 18 after A levels or college is finished. Higher apprenticeships are the equivalent of a foundation degree, right? And they can be levels 4 through to 7, although almost all higher apprenticeships are levels 4 and 5, all right? Now, some people turn their nose up a little bit about the idea of higher apprenticeships because they're foundation degrees, because, you know, the young person is studious, academic, and has been expected to go to university and to get a degree for a very long time. But I would say sometimes all you'll need to qualify in that sector is a higher apprenticeship, and sometimes they pay very well. So, for example, there was one online a few weeks ago for Facebook that was £25,000 a year. It was only a level 4. That's well paid apprenticeship anyway for a starting salary, and you can be assured that that young person will go on to a very lucrative career. All right. There is also the option, if you do a higher apprenticeship, of later reapplying for a full degree apprenticeship elsewhere or at the same company. All right. Speaking of which, level 6s and 7s are degree level apprenticeships, with some of those level 7s even being master's degrees. Okay, so those are the levels for you in a nutshell. As I mentioned earlier, 20% of the apprentice's time is spent off the job learning. Again, if it's a higher or degree level apprenticeship, it will be at a university. Sometimes a tutor will come on site to instruct further. A lot of it in the COVID era will be online, remote learning for obvious reasons. But in ordinary times, most of it will be in the classroom, seminar, lecture hall, learning from the professors and doctors. Okay. Okay, some more remarks on higher and degree apprenticeships. Much of this we've spoken about already. They learn, they earn, they avoid that debt. One thing I would stress is that they are still considered students because they are still studying at university 20% of the time. And it's the university that issues the qualification, right? If you're doing a finance degree apprenticeship with Barclays Bank, it's not Barclays Bank that issue you with the qualification. They can't. They're not an education institution. It will be the university, and it will be a full degree. People often worry that a degree apprenticeship is kind of like a subordinate kind of degree or a different kind of degree. It isn't. It's the same degree, you just earn it in a slightly different way. So it is still a full degree or a full master's degree that you leave with. Another big advantage of doing a degree apprenticeship, as well as, you know, avoiding the debt, is that invaluable work experience. Employers are always telling young people that they want candidates with experience. Young people are always replying, well, I don't have any experience because I have been studying. Well, this is a great way of breaking that catch-22, because they're demonstrating to future employers that not only can they do the job in theory, which a degree would demonstrate, but they can do it in actuality because they have been doing it. All right. This puts them in very good stead for promotions in following years because they've got that experience. And as I said, very often they will stay with the company for a few years anyway because they've earned that professional respect. The length of these degree apprenticeships vary. Sometimes they might just be 2 years. Sometimes they'll be extended because you're spending less time studying. Sometimes they get elongated to 4 or 6. But it will vary from course to course. And when you're researching and applying, that'll be obvious to you based on the descriptions. All right. Okay, so that being said, your child likes the idea of applying for apprenticeship. How can you support them, and where would you find opportunities to apply for? So the first thing I would say is that there isn't a deadline. It's not like UCAS, where the school will spoon feed them to a significant degree and there's a deadline that they need to apply for, right? You are applying not to the university, but to the company. All right, it's like applying for a job. So there isn't a deadline. You would apply throughout the academic year. Some companies will advertise in September, find their person by December, and even though it doesn't start until the following September. All right. So if your child only applies in the spring and summer terms, they will miss out on some of those valuable opportunities. And given how competitive everything is, that's really not something they can afford to be doing. So if they're in year 13, get them contacting companies and applying for apprenticeship vacancies throughout the year. They're advertised in lots of different places. We're going to talk about some of that in a moment. Entry requirements will vary from company to company. I will say they tend to be a little bit more flexible on grades than a normal university course would be, because they're looking for an employee, so they're matching personality types as well. So if everything else on the CV is fantastic, they might be a bit more flexible about the grades. And the application processes will vary a little bit from organisation to organisation, but Tom's going to talk much more about the nitty-gritty of the application process after the research phase in his presentation, so I won't go into that in any further detail now. But in terms of where you would find an apprenticeship opportunity to apply for, one place to start would be findandapprenticeship.gov. All right. Now, findandapprenticeship.gov is a government website. It's free and easy to use. You can register, create an account, do your research, put in your search criteria, the kind of apprenticeship you're after, digital, marketing, engineering, wherever it happens to be. And the system will generate a list for you of all of the opportunities that match your search criteria in your search radius. All right. And you can manage your alerts. So you get emails or texts every time a new one comes online, and you can see the apprenticeship title, the company it's with, job description, how far away it is from the house, and you can follow the link to apply directly to the company. All right. Now, I'm going to show a quick video just to give you a sense of what the website looks like, so you've found the right one. Hopefully the sound will come through okay on this.
To find an apprenticeship, the best way would be to go online. The Find an Apprenticeship website is a great place to start your search.
Find an Apprenticeship is a free service. It's a governmental service that anyone can log on to, and it's easy to use, it's simple, and you can come back to it whenever you need to have a look again. When you log on to the Find an Apprenticeship website after you search using your filters, you can easily select the job that you would like to have a look at, and it becomes like a job advert where it gives you your salary, your hourly rate, and the things that are expected of you and the things that you will achieve while you take the scheme. From there, you can then click to apply and you can contact the employer directly. Then the website is very intuitive to those sort of requirements that you can set up to send yourself alerts, emails, text messages, and make it easier when you've got a busy life that you can't always log on and check. It does the hard work for you, really.
I think it's important that teachers and parents have a look at the Find an Apprenticeship website, because it will develop their understanding of apprenticeships as well and be able to encourage the young people they know. It's definitely worth looking at all the jobs that are there, even if they sound boring, because when you read the descriptions, it may actually be something that interests you.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of findandapprenticeship.gov.uk. Now, while findandapprenticeship.gov.uk is the largest single compilation of apprenticeship opportunities in the country, it does not by any means have every single opportunity advertised on it. All right. So it's really important that you explore other avenues too. So individual company websites are really important. Compile a list of as many companies as you know that are active in this relevant sector. Go onto their websites, look at their vacancy sections, email HR if you can't see anything perhaps, to find out if they've got an opportunity coming up. All right. And again, because apprenticeships are jobs, 80% work, they'll be advertised in those vacancy sections. Many organizations will advertise on social media. Some will advertise on Twitter and Facebook, but the most important one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, if you don't know, is a social media platform that professionals use to share expertise, advice, resources, and opportunities, including job opportunities and including apprenticeship opportunities. All right. So it's a really good idea to encourage your young person to create a LinkedIn account, if only for their apprenticeship search. Also, friends and family, which just means word of mouth. If you know of people who work in the relevant industry, have a word with them, have a conversation, because they might be aware of opportunities at their organisation or other organisations in the industry. All right. And finally, vacancy snapshot, part of Amazing Apprenticeships, is where a lot of those big prestigious name brands advertise their apprenticeship vacancies, such as Google, IBM, EDF, Network Rail, amongst others. Okay, so definitely worth having a look at vacancy snapshot too. Moving on to the next section then, as a parent, if you're supporting your child for their apprenticeship search, how can you tell if it is a good apprenticeship? All right, that can be quite tricky. It's a question that parents will quite often ask. All right, well, one metric you can use is the pay. All right, so if you compare it to similar apprenticeships, is the pay similar, better, worse? And you can make a judgment based on that. Does the job description suggest that there is going to be an opportunity for progression? And if you ask that question of the employer, do they give a positive answer? Is it permanent or fixed term? If it's permanent, that suggests that there's going to be job security. If it's fixed term, that may well not be true, but it might be worth asking how many of your fixed term employees actually stay on permanently afterwards. You can also look at the training provider, the university, and check their government reviews, their Ofsteds, to see how they perform. And finally, is the role varied? Does the job role seem varied based on the job description and based on the answers they might give to any follow-up questions that you ask? All right. Now, there are other things you can do to help support your young person through the apprenticeship hunt. One of which would be to develop commercial awareness. Now, commercial awareness just means keeping up to date with the latest business news for the sector and for the company. And you can do that by, following company literature, newsletters, magazines, websites, following companies on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. All right. And again, that's for the sector as well as for the individual company. All right. You can also look up companies' competency frameworks. These are the ethics and key behaviors that companies value, and they can often be found on the company websites. So it would be worth looking at those. And then when your child comes to write their application and their CV, they can match how they sell themselves to those competency frameworks. All right, it'll really help the CV match what the company wants. You can also look at the apprenticeship standard. So the apprenticeship standard is the key skills, behaviors that every apprenticeship program should produce. All right. If you go on the instituteforapprenticeships.org/apprenticeship standards, again, instituteforapprenticeships.org/apprenticeship standards, you can download a 2 or 3 page document for each apprenticeship standard. So you'll know exactly the skills and knowledge that your young person should gain from their apprenticeship program. All right. Open days. If you're going to university open days to keep your options open, you can always ask the university about their apprenticeship links. That's something I would advise. Some companies will do open days as well. All right, so it's worth keeping an eye out for that. Stay connected, as I say. Follow them on Twitter and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, by the way, I would suggest you make sure it's your child that's doing it rather than yourself, because they might check. But by which I mean your child should have an account. So if they're liaising with these professionals online, they're doing it in their own right rather than you doing on their behalf. Speak to apprentices. You've got the fantastic opportunity today to speak to Tom, who is an apprentice. But if you go to Amazing Apprenticeships website as well, there are pre-recorded sessions from apprentices specific to each sector. So if your child's interested in engineering, you can go onto amazingapprenticeships.com to have a look at a talk by an engineering apprentice, for example. And finally, research the individual recruitment process for the companies you're applying to, because they will all vary a little bit. Speaking of Amazing Apprenticeships, there are also monthly parents packs available there that will support you and your family through an apprenticeship search. There are also translated resources if that might be pertinent for your family. I'm spoken about Amazing Apprenticeships a moment ago, so I won't belabor this point too much, but there really is a plethora of different resources. If you're serious, if your young person is serious about doing an apprenticeship, I would say definitely have a look at Amazing Apprenticeships. All right, .com. And finally, do feel free to follow us. You can download the Fire It Up apps onto your phone. Follow us on Twitter at Apprenticeships. The National Apprenticeship Service can be found by searching for apprenticeships on gov.uk, or call that number on the screen if you'd like further information. All right, so that does take me to the end of the formal presentation, and I shall hand back over to Beth for the time being. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Bradley. That was really, really interesting, and some very good knowledge there that I know people will find very useful. We've already had a few questions in the chat, but if you do have any other concerns, questions, or opinions about higher or degree apprenticeships, whether that's for yourself or for your children, then please do keep the chat going. Okay, so I will hand now over to Tom Cully. He is a degree apprentice with BT, and he's going to be speaking to you about his experience as a degree apprentice. Hi, Tom, welcome, good evening, and over to you.
Hi, Beth. Thank you very much for that introduction. I think I've got all the tech sorted. I'm on camera. I've got the audio on. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. And thank you, Bradley, for kicking off so well. My name's Tom Cully. I'm a Networks degree apprentice, and I am also the co-lead of the London Young Apprentice Ambassador Network. Just off the back of what Bradley said, I hope you find my input really interesting and helpful. But definitely please do head to the Amazing Apprenticeships website, because many of our YANs, our Young Apprentice Ambassadors in London and across the country, have produced videos as well, giving a similar presentation to what I'm going to give today. So there are plenty of experiences available for you, and I hope you find them really helpful. I'm going to take you through, a presentation which I admit is slightly BT biased. I don't know why. I do work for them, so I guess that's slightly unavoidable. But nonetheless, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be really transferable to other companies, and I know is completely the same with many of my colleagues who are at different companies within the Young Apprentice Ambassador Network. So to kick off, I've got a brief video which is going to introduce you to kind of the life and experience of an apprentice. And I would ask you as well, people who are young people tuning in, stay tuned. But for parents tuning in as well, try and take a moment just to put yourself in a young person's shoes as well, somebody leaving school, somebody looking to start their apprenticeship journey, because I think that way you might find this presentation a little, more effective. So I'll kick off with the video, and I hope you find it helpful.
I always knew I wanted to work in accounting and finance, so I had two options in front of me, university or apprenticeship scheme. I knew that apprenticeship scheme was the one for me because I knew it's going to kickstart my career, get me into work as soon as possible, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And BT is an international company, so many opportunities all around the world, so that's why I chose BT.
So there's a lot of avenues really to do with apprenticeships, and you can go into so many different industries and so many different sort of streams and schemes, and that can really widen your horizons for your career.
The vibe on this scheme is really enjoyable. You're constantly supported and you're always encouraged to take risks which push you into great opportunities. I've come in at 18 rather than after uni, so I'll be able to continue to build on those relationships as a qualified person with experience, and I've actually already secured a job as a finance analyst.
So not only do I get 4 years on my CV as working in an operational role in a really high profile company, I also get the degree that goes alongside it. So I've got this full rounded CV where not only am I academic, I'm operational, but other things to do with the apprenticeship, such as volunteering.
Coming in at such a young age, it's really, really daunting to think that everyone is going to be so much older and wiser than you, but I've never been made to feel like just because I'm younger, that I'm not as capable. I've always been given so many opportunities and things to really get stuck into.
I've actually had opportunities to get involved in varying things. For example, I'm part of the Grow Brick team at work, where we cut up unrecyclable plastic and stuff it into plastic bottles. But also, we've hosted Office Olympic events where we get everyone on their feet and get them to do fun events at work.
There's so many opportunities that I don't think you'd get in other businesses.
Being able to round your CV at the same time that people at university have to maybe do part-time jobs, or maybe not even have a job at all, they're just studying. Being able to round your CV as a person that after 4 years, you're going into a job market with so much experience and so many opportunities open to you.
Okie dokie. So I really emphasize on what Tom's just finished there with a rounded CV. And my experience is I started in 2018 on a 4-year-long degree apprenticeship in networks. By the time I finish in 2022, I would have had 4 years worth of work experience, 4 years worth of pay, and I wouldn't have paid a penny for my degree. Now that's a really unique position to be in, as well as BT giving me the time during work to study towards that degree. So it's a really, really unique position to be in. So apprenticeships available, and this is, yes, some of the apprenticeships you can see on screen at the moment we offer at BT, but actually I'd really say, and I think the moral of this slide really is look inside the company. You might look at companies like BT and think they just recruit engineer apprentices. They just do technology. They just provide Wi-Fi and telephones. Well, we have apprenticeships in so many sectors you can see there, from business management to project management, through to our supply chain and cybersecurity as well. So there's so many opportunities, even including sales and marketing there. You know, the opportunities are endless. Our finance apprentices, our finance degree apprentices work towards becoming chartered accountants by the time they've finished their apprenticeship. An opportunity which is just not available at university, to become a chartered accountant while you are studying at university. So there are plenty of opportunities there, and I'd really say look inside a company. You'll look at a company like PwC, a financial firm. They've got some of the leading technology firms in the technology roles in the country. Sorry. So definitely look within a company. Don't look at one company that might sell shoes and think selling shoes is the only thing they do. They will have apprentices and people in all sorts of sectors. So definitely look inside of that and expect the unexpected, really. What do we look for in our apprentices? And again, this is what I personally think throughout my experience we look for in our apprentices, but it's definitely similar across other companies. And we really, value individuals who go above and beyond. And some of the examples of the kind of things that I was doing before I applied at BT is I was volunteering in my local community. I was working with my local council. I was actually on a youth council, which spoke about issues in the local area and how we can improve life for young people. I sat on the school's kind of leadership team as like the junior leadership team is what we called it. I took every opportunity that I could that came my way, from ski trips to I did a community project in Nepal and trekked Everest Base Camp. And I went to a bog standard mainstream secondary school just north of Enfield, actually, not far away, only about half an hour, even less. And and that was my story. And I just tried to get involved in so much. And volunteering is something that we really value at BT. In fact, we value it so much that we give all of our employees 3 days volunteering leave per year to go and do things in their community, to have an impact on their community. And I think that really reflects our values of personal, simple, brilliant. And the reason I want to reference our values is because our values was something that was absolutely critical for my application when I was applying for my role at BT, in the fact that throughout the application, I tried to show that I was a personal person, that I was a simple person, and that in turn, through being personal and simple in the things that I could do, is that I could actually be brilliant for BT. And that's really, really important. That's all about that commercial awareness, your understanding of what the company does and your understanding of what the company stands for. And that's something that is absolutely pivotal to your application. I would reflect, you might be asked questions such as, can you tell me a time when you've shown good leadership? And I would always be thinking, okay, how do I answer this question in a way that I show that I'm personal and simple within my leadership? And that's going to be really impressive to the employer. So benefits, obviously, there are plenty of benefits for working for different companies. You usually could get the flagship product, for example. With us, obviously, we sell BT broadband to our consumer customers. BT mobile discounts as well. We give all of our people 22 days annual leave from our apprentices from the beginning. And that's kind of fairly roughly standard for a lot of apprenticeships out there, including the 3 days volunteering leave. And again, an opportunity to buy shares in the company. For me, when I joined at BT, this was possibly the least relevant thing. And now it is one of the most relevant things to me. Now I'm kind of more financially minded, which I think is something that that has come with having a job, straight out of school at 18. And other offers as well. And I'm going to come on to a little bit on discounts, which is quite interesting later on. I also wanted to talk about the application process. So the process that I went through in 2018. So the first stage was an application form. This was fairly standard, really just getting the information that I had the right to work in the UK, getting my qualifications down on paper, getting my address and my personal details down on paper. And following that was a situational strengths test. Now, this might be also known as a psychometric test. It's an online test, and it's basically trying to understand, in BT's case, and it varies between companies, is BT wants to know, if this situation happened at work, what decision would you make? Decision A, decision B, decision C, decision D. And I'll give you an example. It could be that your line manager has given you 3 more tasks to complete by the end of the week, but you don't have time to complete them. You've either got 4 options. You either just don't do them, you tell your manager no, that you haven't got time, you ask for an extra team member's support to see if they can spare some time to help you, or you just work loads of overtime on weekends and evenings to get it done. And by answering that question, we're going to learn the kind of person that the applicant is and understand if that's the kind of person we want to recruit. You can practice these tests. Just Google psychometric testing practice online, or apprenticeship online test practice. All those kind of searches on Google will bring back loads of different ones. And I'd say, don't think that you need to find the right one. Every employer is different, so any practice you can get at all is really, really beneficial. I then went on to a video interview. And at this stage, it's probably quite important to mention is the application form was automated, the online exam was automated, the video interview, even at this stage, at stage 3 or 4 in my application, was all being run by a computer. So I hadn't actually spoken to a human by this point. I received a message to say, well done, Tom, you've passed the online test. You've got a video interview now. And I effectively logged on, and this is slightly different. A lot of you might be thinking a video interview is a bit like Zoom or a bit like Skype when I'm talking to somebody from the company. Sadly, that wasn't the case. It was actually a case of an automated system that brought up a question on the screen, and I had an amount of time to answer it. So for example, if it was a 2-minute answer question, I'd have 1 minute to think about my answer. If it was a 1-minute answer question, I'd have 30 seconds to think about it. So it'd be a case of question flashes up, 30 seconds, I need to quickly jot down some initial thoughts. And after that 30 seconds, I need to be ready and waiting to basically talk to the camera and present my answer. My absolute recommendation is 1 piece of paper with loads of commercial awareness on one side, and 1 piece of paper which is completely blank and a pen, because you're going to have so many thoughts initially that you need to quickly jot down. The final was an assessment centre, which I've got a dedicated slide for, and it's roughly 3 to 4 hours long. And at this point is really the point where with BT, you're actually going to meet a real person. You're going to be able to introduce yourself, and you're going to be able to go through at the time of my application, and assessment centres change, not just at BT, but across lots of different companies, was that I had to do a group exercise, a face-to-face interview, and a discussion exercise. Now, the group exercise was a group of 4 or 5 people. You don't know what's coming. It's presented to you on the day, and you've basically got to think on your feet to try and find a solution. All group exercises vary in their own different way. What my advice would be is that they want to see people actively getting involved, and showing leadership is a great thing to do, but you've got to do it in the right way. Being a leader doesn't always mean the person speaking the loudest in the room. And I would definitely say that, ensuring that everybody has their own opportunity to speak is more important than just constantly putting across your own opportunity. If you're sat there and there's one person not speaking up as much, a leader would actually ask them, what do you think? Could I have your input? And that's really, really important. The face-to-face interview is an opportunity for you to ultimately sell yourself, sell your story, sell your experiences, and sell any skills that you've taken up or kind of gained through those experiences. Like I say, that's where any charity work, volunteering, even playing a sport can come really, really, really helpful at that stage. And the discussion exercise was effectively something that I was given a heads up about before. It was like a project which I had to put together and then present in the assessment centre. If there is anything like that, the applicant would be informed before the assessment centre if they've got to prepare anything as well. So I've got a few more minutes, and I really wanted to talk about my experience. So where did I apply for? How did I apply for? How did I find it? And where am I now? So here we are. This is my applied companies, if you like. So at the time, I've left the old BT logo on there because that's what it was when I joined. We've got level 3, level 4, and level 6 apprenticeships. And what a lot of you might be thinking at the moment is, oh, Tom's a degree apprentice. I either want to go to university or I want to do a degree apprenticeship. I don't want to do level 4 apprenticeships. I don't want to do level 3 apprenticeships. And I would say that that's a really, really incorrect approach to take. I would definitely look at all opportunities, because actually you've got opportunities to develop, you've got opportunities to progress in all levels of apprenticeships. I know people who have done level 3 apprenticeships and then gone on and done a level 4 apprenticeship, then gone on and done a level 6 apprenticeship, and I can now with us at BT. There's no right or wrong path, and I'd say that both with university and apprenticeships. Some of them, there was a company I really wanted to apply for on the screen was Google. I really wanted to apply for a job at Google, and the fact that it was Google, it didn't matter to me what level the apprenticeship was. I still wanted to apply. The civil service is on there as well. UBS had a starting salary of £21,000 per year from day one, which was great. Other companies like BT, their starting salary at BT was 15,562 when I joined. It's actually gone up since then, but I've actually found that since joining BT, the progression has been really, really good. So don't worry about the starting salary. I would apply anyway, to be purely honest. The experience of applying, the practice of applying, and the application process is really, really valuable. And actually, when you get accepted, or if you get accepted, it's that point you can say, okay, what does the pay progression look like? Or, what am I going to be paid? Because you might find that some companies start off lower and progress a lot over a period, and some might start on 21,000 and only go up by, say, £500 a year. So yeah, I'd really do your research, I guess is the one on that one. I'd also reference that networking is really, really important. Accenture is a company on there, a technology consultancy firm. And I went to an Insight event, something that I guess isn't really happening much anymore because of COVID. But effectively what an Insight event was you'd go to a company, you'd probably receive a presentation of some sort about apprenticeships that are on offer, and you'd then get kind of a tour around the office, or maybe an interactive session where you get to kind of do something hands-on. Effectively, it's a promotional event to promote Accenture's apprenticeships, and lots of other companies do them as well. And I went along and there was an apprentice who was talking and I found him really, really interesting. And I wanted to network with him. I wanted to stay in touch with him. I actually went up to him after. I said, Luke, his name was. And I said, Luke, can I get your details? Can I get your email address? I'd really love to stay in touch with you. This was after I'd had a little bit of a conversation with him about what the apprenticeship entailed. And he said, yeah, of course. And I think, now I would do exactly the same. And I took his contact details and I followed up with him about a week later. I said, just thanks so much for your help. I've had a couple more questions. Do you think you'd be able to answer them? And he did answer them. He came straight back to me within a couple of days. He said, yeah, here are the answers to your questions. But also, I was really impressed with you at the event and I'd like to give you a referral. And I actually got all the way to the last stage of the application process at Accenture. And, I wouldn't say it's possibly all lies on that referral, but I think a lot of it did. And definitely, networking is good. Bradley's spoken about LinkedIn, another great platform to use as well for that purpose. And also in the background, some of you might be thinking, okay, Tom totally went for the apprenticeship route. And the answer is no. I applied for university as well because I really wasn't sure. So there's 8 apprenticeship schemes on there that you can see. And I also applied for 5 universities. 5 universities varied, some Russell Group, some not. And eventually I ended up with my primary choice as Leeds and my secondary choice as Kent. In the end, I went through all of the application processes you can see on screen, the 8 apprenticeship schemes there. And I got an offer at the University of Kent. The only apprenticeship offer I got was BT at the end. It was one of my last apprenticeship applications though, BT. And the reason I say that is because you'll get better through every single experience. You will take something back from every single application. I've still got feedback documents from PwC, EY, IBM, Accenture, and Google. Feedback that I still use now, feedback that I still reflect on now. And without that feedback, without the feedback, I wouldn't have got my job at BT, frankly. So I had BT and I had University of Kent. And I had to make a decision. Do I go to university? Do I do the apprenticeship? In my mind, I was slightly leaning towards BT. I wanted to have a job. and I wanted to be able to get the degree at the same time and not pay any tuition fees. On paper, it just made sense. So I went with BT, but rather than just turning around to the University of Kent and just saying, no, I'm okay, I'm not coming, something I did, which I thought was really beneficial to me, was I actually turned around to the University of Kent and I said, can I just defer my offer from starting in September 2018 to starting in September 2019? And what that enabled me to do was actually keep an offer kind of just on my shoulder, if you like, that if I ever didn't enjoy BT, I could actually leave BT, and without having to reapply for a UCAS, without having to reapply to university, I already had an offer at the University of Kent. And that's why I'd say, actually, and I know I'm running out of time, so I do apologise, Beth, but it's important that grades aren't everything. I definitely would say, give it your all, give it your best shot. But admittedly, I didn't do very well. I studied 3 A-levels, A-level in maths, A-level in geography, and I did a BTEC equivalent in music. My music was great. I got distinction star and absolutely loved my whole time there. And in my maths and English, I actually got an E and a D. And that was a shock to me. I thought I was going to do a lot better, but sadly I didn't. But BT still saw me for who I was and decided to take me on. So I would bear that in mind. It's about who you are. It's about how you impress the employer just as much as the grades. Don't forget the grades. They're still really, really important, but think about you and what you can sell to the company. Okay, so university, this is where I study, full-time, fully registered student, just like everybody else. I studied at It's Ravensbourne University, London. Got my words out in the end. As you can probably tell, that's the O2 Arena right behind. We are literally right outside in the funky looking building. And I have exactly the same benefits as every other student. I can go in at any time. I can use the library at any time. I can use the common spaces at any time. I can just go in and sit at a desk and do some work at any time. And I also have access to all of the student discounts, from uni days to student beans to NUS and absolutely all of those benefits that you get from being a student. Now, when you've got those benefits from being a student and a salary, it's a pretty good position to be in, as I'm sure you can understand. So what should you do next? Bradley's already covered this. I'd definitely say vacancy snapshot, which is again on the Amazing Apprenticeships website. I cannot recommend most. For the kind of big brands like BT, Coca-Cola, NHS, the BBC, Amazon, some of them you can see on screen there. Check out that website. It's really, really interesting. Not Going to University is a great platform. National Careers Service again. Definitely find an apprenticeship website, but remember, not all roles are on the Find an Apprenticeship website. My big role at BT and many others that I applied for were not on the Find an Apprenticeship website because they were with big employers that don't advertise on there. So bear in mind, there's a great number of apprenticeships on there, but not all of them. And as Bradley said, the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education really benefited me to understand what I was going to be studying on my apprenticeship. So I've run slightly over, so I will hand back to Beth, but thank you very much for listening. And yeah, back to you, Beth.
Thanks so much, Tom. That was some really, really useful information there. I think things we can all take away from and actually probably answered a few questions that are in the chat. But there are a few that we could do with your advice on. So Bradley, I'll come to you first, if I may. Joe asks, my son's just started year 12. When should he be applying for apprenticeships?
I would say research now and apply throughout year 13. As I say, some of the opportunities might be advertised early in autumn term or winter term, and they'll get that person, even though the apprenticeship itself won't start until the following year. All right, so if you're applying just in spring and summer term, you'll miss out on some of those fantastic opportunities, which you don't want to be doing. So throughout the academic year.
Great, good to know. And as you said, obviously it doesn't work in the same way as university or UCAS. They just pop up as and when. So throughout year 13, you'll need to be looking and applying for those. Great. So Tom, I mean, in the meantime, say you were in year 12 now, hoping to apply in year 13, what kind of things could you be doing now to prepare for those experiences and that CV that you'll have to write?
Yeah, well, as Bradley said, applying all year round is definitely something you've got to consider. So I would say year 12 is just about on the edge of thinking about how can you develop yourself as a person? How can you develop yourself as a future employee? And how can you develop these sets of skills that make you attractive to an employer? So what I would really say on that point is, think about any volunteering you've done, any extracurricular activities you've been involved with, and have a reflection. Just take some time. What did I find hard? What didn't I find so hard? And what skills did I develop at that time? Because it's when you're pushed into your kind of growth zone, out of your comfort zone, that you're going to develop the skills that the employers are really going to ask about. So I would have a look at that. And if you can't really think of much, ask your school, what kind of volunteering can I get involved with? What extracurricular activities can I get involved with to build my soft skills?
Great, yeah, some very, very good advice, and I take it you did much of that as well in your preparation. I was going to ask as well, in terms of the assessment days, Tom, that you mentioned, and that dreaded interview. I wonder if you have any advice for some parents in order to prepare their children for that assessment day, and maybe some pointers on how they can stand out in such a competitive process.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I would really say, first of all, the group assessment. I would echo what I've already said in regards to being the leader, getting other people involved, because we've all got ideas, and they haven't got to be the biggest ideas in the world, but we've got to make sure that we come across as people who contribute, and also ensure that our peers are given the opportunity to equally contribute as well. So I'd really say that's the thing for the group assessment. Think outside the box. Timekeeping. It's such an easy win in the group assessment. It's just get your watch out and just start a stopwatch. Be the person who says, hi guys, I think we've actually only got 5 minutes. Can we wrap it up? Be that person. And in regards to the face-to-face interview, I would really say just have lots of things on paper that you've done. Ask the interviewer, can I just have this little piece of paper on the desk while we're chatting? And I've never had anybody say no to that question. And on there, I've got things that I've done, the commercial awareness, any fun facts about the company that I'm applying for. And I would always reference the STAR model, which you'll be able to Google online, STAR, STAR, situation, task, action, and result. It's the situation you've been put in, what task was ahead of you, what action you took, and the result of that action. And that just lets you really tell a story in your answers. And the outcome hasn't always got to be positive. It might have been actually things didn't work out how I wanted, but what did you learn from that? That's what's really important.
That's a really important thing, as well as to be reflective, I guess, in those interviews. And I think what we've found with STAR is you can even make the prospect of making a cup of tea sound professional and exciting.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of young people always speak to us about, I don't feel like I have any experience to talk about in these interviews. And I think what it really is it's how you phrase it. And everybody has experience, everybody has expertise in something. And it's about recognizing that and being able to articulate that in an interview. So yeah, the STAR method, as Tom says, is really useful. Bradley, do you have any advice on interviews for parents and how they can support their child's
I would refer you to the National Careers Service website, because there's a lot of advice and resources on there that you can refer to help support your child through it. Otherwise, the main thing I would have said is what Tom said, really, the STAR technique is really, really important. So yeah, absolutely. But do check out the National Careers Service website.
Great, yeah, thanks very much. And I was going to ask Bradley, are assessment centres common? I see, obviously, Tom, you had to go through an assessment centre, the virtual sort of something popping up on the screen and you having 1 minute to respond. Are those common among degree apprentices now?
For degree apprenticeships, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, very common. For the level 2s and 3s, not so much. But for degree level apprenticeships, yeah, they are common.
And we've got some more questions coming up in the chat. Susie asks, and I was going to ask this as well, Susie, in the current climate, is it still possible to get an apprenticeship opportunity, as many people have lost their job recently? Bradley, I'll come to you for that difficult conversation first.
Sure. So yeah, the numbers are bouncing back up again. So obviously in peak lockdown, we had quite a lot of opportunities were taken offline. While companies reassessed what their options were, but we are seeing the number increase again. It's still not quite up to where it was this time last year, but those opportunities are still out there. My advice to people is, it's the same as the advice was before, but I just stress it a little bit more. We always say, don't just apply for degree apprenticeships, also apply for a normal university placement, because UCAS is a separate system. You can apply for your maximum UCAS places and as many degree apprenticeship opportunities as you like. That was always the advice, because it's always competitive, but that's even more true now because it's a little harder because of COVID to find an apprenticeship placement. Make sure you definitely apply for UCAS as well.
Yeah, some great advice there, and that's what you did, of course, Tom, as well, as you were saying. I wonder, in perspective of this, kind of the job shortages that we have at the moment, and the amount of people either coming off furlough or being made redundant, sadly, whether this actually might open up the conversation of us talking to parents about themselves doing an apprenticeship. And Susie again had a question earlier saying she's over 35 and she has a degree already. She wonders if she can still apply for a higher or degree apprenticeship, or whether she would disqualify because of either her age or the fact that she has a degree already. Bradley, I'm not sure if you've got any opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so you can either apply for an apprenticeship that's a higher level than the qualification you already have, like applying for a master's, or alternatively, you could, if you're applying for something that is in a radically different field than what you're currently doing. If it's the same thing, an apprenticeship has to demonstrate like a lot of new learning, and if it's no new learning, you're just doing stuff that you've already been doing in your career already, then that they won't take you on. But if it's in a different field or it's a higher level, you absolutely can, and that's true of all levels of apprenticeships. Like if you finish your A levels, for example, and you don't know what to do, and you might think, well, I've either got to do higher or go to university. Again, not necessarily. You can do a level 3, even though you've already got level 3 equivalents, if it's something that doesn't match well with your A-level choices. So all levels, that's true.
Great, that's really great news. I might have to go for one then, because they sound excellent. Fantastic. Great. Okay. Tom, I wonder if you could help answer this question from Emmy. Her son is in year 12 as well. And if he takes an assessment centre and if he fails that, how soon can he retake it? Do you know how long you have to wait between those?
Yeah, so I guess your question would be around how soon could they retake an application for the same employer? Because remember, between employers, they're not linked whatsoever. So for an assessment centre at Accenture and an assessment centre at BBC are completely different. They don't know about each other. Even the Education, Skills and Funding Agency has no idea who you're applying for or any correlation between them, neither does the Department for Education. I assume what you're talking about is the same employer. That's a little bit more difficult, and it's really down to the employer. For example, I know some organisations where if you had applied already that academic year, if you try and apply again, or I say academic year / the same starting period, if you apply again, one of the questions will be, have you already applied for this scheme for start in X date? And if you answer yes, then you will not be able to proceed. So a lot of organisations will stop you from applying again within the same academic year. But honestly, you could apply for the same apprenticeship scheme 5 years in a row. It wouldn't matter.
Right, that's really good to know. Thank you. And I guess finally we are drawing to a close. So I'd just like to thank you both for your contributions this evening, and to everyone watching and who's contributed to the chat. Tom, I just wanted to ask, what are your plans for the future? Given you've had this incredible start to the working world, what does life beyond BT look like for you?
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of happening now, because you asked that question and I kind of go, oh, that's really scary, but I guess it's already happening. I'm in my second year at the moment. Well, no, I'm not. I'm in my third year. I've just gone into my third year, which is absolutely petrifying. But work's become very busy at the moment throughout the pandemic with the particular team that I work in. I now deputise for my manager. So on some days I can be seen leading a team of 11 people. And I guess really on that note that's kind of, I think what I want to do is lead a team. We've got some fantastic people at BT, some people I thoroughly enjoy working with, and I'd love to lead a team one day. So maybe we'll see what happens.
Really great. Well, best of luck with that, Tom. And Bradley, finally, I wondered, from your expertise in all things apprenticeships. What industry or sector do you see as the most sort of up and coming in apprenticeships at the moment? Where are we seeing more and more apprenticeships being offered, and where's really exciting to get one in?
The big ones, I suppose, are like engineering, finance and accountancy would be very big ones as well. So those are the biggest two. But as I say, they're across the board, you can find them. I think engineering is a very big one.
Great stuff. Okay, watch that space, engineering. Lovely. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for agreeing to be part of this and for providing such great presentations and information. For those of you watching who would like some more resources on this, we've linked a few guides by Amazing Apprenticeships in the chat, but you can also head to accessheonline.ac.uk, and there are short courses there that your children can take, and that's exploring their higher education study options. But there's also a site specifically and a page specifically for parents and carers. And we have a brand new guide explaining all about the higher education journey, whether that's university, apprenticeships, the working world, it's all in there. So go ahead and download it. That's accessheonline.ac.uk. All right, I'll leave everyone to the nice rainy evening. But thank you very much for joining us, and good night.